Well, it is a very early bye week for UCF, so why shouldn't we go through the entire rest of the schedule and predict what games we think UCF can pull out? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. As always, we are sponsored by FanDuel, number one sportsbook. UCF is not playing this week, guys, but there are so many college football games, NFL games, and props that you should go bet on. FanDuel is the place to do it. They have the best lines, the best parlay odds, anything you will want when betting for college football or the NFL. Do it on FanDuel, America's number one sports book and a proud partner of the Charge On podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick, Sean Clark obviously was hospitalized. We don't really have much information, but thoughts and prayers are with his family. You kind of just see from the outpouring of love and support throughout the college football world just how much Sean Clark means to a lot of coaches and a lot of people in the space. So obviously, I've met Sean Clark. He's a grade A human being, treated us with kindness and respect, and I know his players love him a lot. So hopefully all goes well there, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family as he battles whatever he is dealing with, and we're hoping for the best. So just wanted to get that out off the top. But welcome to another episode of Charge On. For this bye week, it's an early bye week, and especially with these early ones. Last year we had another early one where UCF kind of, I think they were 3-0, and then we had a bye week, and maybe they went 2-0 and then they won. I forgot the exact timing. I think it was the same bye week last year that we had this year. And I think we did something similar. But we had the first two games, and look, I think the first game we've obviously talked. It was a little rough. There was a lot of things that the Knights needed to work on and get better at going into week two. And obviously, Cam Fancher was hurt. He didn't play in week two. Taven Jackson got the start against North Carolina A&T and really went out and proved that he could do some good things. Was he perfect? No. I think there are things he would want to work on. And I think this past week, I'm sure, was really honing in on maybe who they believe should be quarterback one against North Carolina. I think we can all assume it's Taven, but I do think Cam getting back in the fold will be interesting. He clearly was the best quarterback in terms of just practice and camp. So I think going into this week with North Carolina, you could start to think, is Cam still a potential for quarterback one? And once we figure that out, then we can figure a lot of other stuff out. But I think we all assume Taven will be the guy. Looking down the schedule, on our live post-game show against North Carolina A&T, I saw a lot of people start to kind of give their predictions, start to be like, oh, UCF could beat this team, UCF could beat this team. And I found it funny because that's just what we do. That's what fans do. That's what podcasters do. You kind of match your team up with their record, who they've played, and you start to look at other teams and be like, well, this team is not that good. UCF should beat them. And they start to kind of plan the schedule. So I wanted to go through and kind of give my honest thoughts and opinions of not just the teams that UCF is facing, but what I actually think. So as many of you know, my record prediction for UCF, my way too early record prediction back in February, March was 6-6. Granted, I was being very gracious, not knowing the team. Now seeing the team for 2 weeks, granted, it's still very early and the team has a lot of developing to do over the course of the season. I want to kind of give my still way too early predictions, but kind of give a sense of a pulse on where UCF is now and the teams that they will be facing. So let's start with next Saturday. As of right now, I want to see North Carolina this weekend. They're taking on Richmond. I think that is going to be a very interesting, even though it's Richmond, it'll be interesting to see how UNC fares. Last week, they beat Charlotte 20-3. It wasn't that impressive. The defense obviously looked pretty good, but and also the game's 3:30 on Fox, so it doesn't look like big noon kickoff is going to come, but honestly, I'm fine with it. UCF gets a national television game, which, again, I always appreciate. Is it perfect timing necessarily? No. I don't think UCF should be on national TV right now. Not because I don't want it. I think getting the brand of UCF out anytime is good. So I have no problem with that. I'm just nervous again. Public perception is everything. And last year against Colorado, that really hurt UCF's public perception. Made them look bad. It made them look weak. They didn't play good at all. And I think that really hurt UCF in the long run. So against North Carolina, I think it's good that we're on national TV. You're playing Bill Belichick. You're playing the Tar Heels at home. It's going to be electric. But there is hopefully UCF can show up. I have UCF winning this one right now. We will see in a week how I feel. Obviously, we have our pregame pod where we'll kind of give the scouting report on North Carolina and get all the players right. But right now, I do think UCF might have the edge over North Carolina. The one thing that makes me a little nervous is just the consistency of UCF's offense. Obviously, last week they played really well, but I think there were times that they weren't as consistent. And I think against North Carolina, though this is probably I'm not exaggerating, one of the worst P4 teams that you're going to see over the course of your season, it's definitely going to be a challenge, just in terms of making sure you get up enough points to win the game. But right now I have UCF going 3-0. Now the next week, UCF takes on Kansas State. And I think a lot of people are not sleeping on Kansas State because Kansas State is bad, guys. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and front you guys. Kansas State is not looking good. They've really struggled this season. I think you kind of see it. It seems like, and again, we'll see Kansas State at the end of the year, like where they've kind of stacked up. But Kansas State, last year it was Florida State. Whoever plays in that Aer Lingus College Football Classic game in Ireland, whoever plays in it, there's one team from that game that struggles. Obviously, Florida State went 2-10 last year. Kansas State lost by 3 to Iowa State. Then they should have lost to North Dakota. They should have lost. They went down and scored a touchdown with, I think, like 20 seconds left or something. And then they lost to Army last week. This week, they play Arizona, and Arizona looks much improved. They do. They look like a much improved football team. So Kansas State is favored by 1.5 on FanDuel. I'll be honest. I think they're going to lose that game. I think Arizona can go in and beat them. I know a lot of people are going to want me to choose UCF right now. Right now, it's tough. I think it is a very winnable game. That's a tough one. See, I see what fans are doing because, I think UCF has the talent to go and beat Kansas State. Right now, you know what? It's so crazy to think that UCF could be 4-0. I think Kansas State is that bad. I'm going to go UCF goes down there and beats Kansas State. So UCF goes 4-0. That's crazy to think. That is crazy to. I'll be honest, guys. They've got to lose one of those games. I'm saying it now. I'm going to give them 4-0 just because I do think UCF is a better team than those two teams, which I know. Again, we haven't seen UCF really play anybody, so there is that caveat. But Kansas State's not good. Now, also, to be fair, Kansas State has put up points on every team they played, so there is that. Next week, UCF takes on Kansas at home. Guys, I think this is, if it is their first loss, that'd be great. But UCF will take a loss here. Kansas is a really good team. I think they're going to be able to put up points. Jalen Daniels, when healthy, is electric. There's not much else to say. I think Lance Leipold is a coach that a lot of people are going to be looking at, especially after this year. They were looking at him before this year to potentially take over their program. I think Kansas is a really good squad, and I think they're definitely in the top half of the Big 12 this year. They took a tough loss last week to Missouri, a game that you can make the argument they should have won, but I'm going to go Kansas here, so UCF 4-1. Cincinnati. Cincinnati's an interesting one. Obviously, it's a rivalry game. They almost beat Nebraska in a game they should have won. They beat Bowling Green, but only by 14. This one's kind of a toss-up, but I know UCF fans might hate me for saying it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But because Cincinnati's at home, I'm going to give Cincinnati the win right now. I'm not ultra impressed with Cincinnati. I do believe UCF can go there and win. And again, a lot of this we just need to see how UCF plays. Like right now, we're kind of like 50-50 on UCF. The last game was awesome. Game before that was really bad. So there's kind of this like these next two games, the North Carolina game and the Kansas State game, are really going to determine where this team can go. If UCF can go 4-0, I can easily switch up and say UCF beats Cincinnati because I do think UCF and Cincinnati are very similar. I do think quarterback play, Brendan Sorsby, I'm not in love with him. As we know, I'm not a Brendan Sorsby fan. I think he's kind of average. He showed that last year. But right now, I think just going on the road, I do think UCF will fall to Cincinnati right now. So that'd be 4-2. West Virginia. I originally, West Virginia just seems like a team that UCF always loses to. I'd be pretty surprised if UCF loses. Obviously, Rich Rod, Scott Frost, two former coaches of these programs coming back to coach their former team. That West Virginia team is all sorts of messed up. Last week, they lost to Ohio, I believe. Yeah, Ohio, 10-17. They've got Pitt this weekend. Look at this. Hear this. They've got Pitt. They've got Kansas. They've got Utah. And they have BYU before they face UCF. There's a chance, and I know this is kind of crazy to say, West Virginia might only have one win coming in to Florida to face UCF, and that's insane to say. But I do believe UCF will beat West Virginia. They have some quarterback issues at West Virginia. UCF technically could have quarterback issues, but I think West Virginia it does not look good right now. Defense looks a little rough. Offense definitely looks rough. And, listen, at the end of the day, I feel bad for the Mountaineers. To lose to Ohio is rough. Jaheim White, I think, is out for the rest of the year. That also hurts them. He's electric. So I'm going to say UCF wins that game and goes 5-2. UCF versus Baylor. At Baylor. I'm going to go Baylor right here. I think Baylor, everybody had them in the potential Big 12 championship conversation this year. They had them kind of ranked in that top half. I think they kind of showed in the first 2 weeks. Granted, they've had an interesting first 2 weeks. They lost to Auburn by a couple touchdowns, though you can make that argument. Baylor was right in that game up until the last bit. They had a comeback win against SMU in double overtime. SMU was leading almost that entire game, and Baylor came back and won it at the end. Baylor's got a favorable schedule. So you can make the argument if they really catch stride here, you could see them in that final couple weeks potentially be in Big 12 title conversations. They have Samford this week, and then, we'll see about Arizona State and stuff. They do play Arizona State, Kansas State. Right now, I'm going to go Baylor. I think Baylor has the better squad, the better team this year. They already have a ranked win on their belt. I think Dave Aranda's done a really good job of Sawyer Robertson is legit. I really like Sawyer Robertson. I think UCF fans will remember what he did to UCF a couple of years ago in that come from behind win. So I'm going to go Baylor here. I think that would make it 5-3 for UCF. And at that point, that'd be 5-3 with 4 games left. I think UCF fans would take that 10 out of 10 times. I think that's crazy to say. UCF versus Houston. I'm going to say UCF gets a win here. I think they get 6 wins. I think Houston is a team that it's at home. It's space game. They're not losing a space game. And if they do, I think that will be very sad and people will cry. Space games should not be lost and UCF doesn't lose them. So that's all I'm going to say. Connor Wegman, I think, is their quarterback, right? If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure. They beat up on Rice. Yeah, Connor Wegman. Granted, I'm more scared of Connor Wegman than their other quarterbacks that they've had in the past. But it's space game. So that'd be 6-3. 6-3. Then not much to talk about. Texas Tech. UCF's going to lose that game. Texas Tech is really impressive. I think they're going to be in the Big 12 title game. I don't think they're getting enough credit. Granted, they haven't played anybody. They played Kent State and AR Pine Bluff. They're taking on Oregon State this week. Oregon State is 0-2. But then the next week, the week we play UNC, they take on Utah. And I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup for them. But I really like Texas Tech. In my opinion, just seeing the way the offense, seeing the way the defense is, I think Utah and Texas Tech are by far the two best teams in the conference right now, along with Iowa State. But I'm going to take that as a loss. So that'd be 6-4. Oklahoma State's, I do feel bad. I like Mike Gundy a lot. Nick likes Mike Gundy a lot. They lose their starting quarterback, Henji, or a guy that UCF was interested in, or I was at least interested in him for UCF. I don't know. That one, he might be healthy by the time they play us, so that is something to kind of look out for. Mike Gundy might not even be the coach at that point. There is like a small chance that Mike Gundy does not finish the year. So you kind of have to put that into perspective. I do think UCF is a better team than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, I just think, is probably bottom of the Big 12 in terms of just talent. I think they're probably the last place team in terms of talent. So I'll go UCF there. That'd be 7 wins. And then chance for 8 wins, heading to Provo to face BYU. Listen, I think BYU is going to start humming here. They're 2-0 against, they beat Stanford and they beat Portland State. So nobody really that impressive, but I do like BYU, just not like I liked them last year. I do think UCF will fall in that one. But with that being said, that is 7-5. So in a crazy, listen, I think right now 6-7 wins is doable. And I think when you look at kind of the way that everything is shaped out and everything is mapped out, UCF got a good draw this year in terms of schedule, in terms of quality of opponents. I think I said this earlier. So far, only a couple weeks in, the Big 12 really looks like it is very top-heavy. Like the top 5 teams. Like if you look at the Big 12 right now, you got Iowa State, who I think is really good. You have Utah, Texas Tech, Baylor. I'm trying to find BYU, which I think is in a league of their own. TCU, who I think is really good. You have a lot of good teams at the top that anybody can make a case for winning the Big 12. I think you might have multiple Big 12 teams in the college football playoff this year because I think the teams are just that good. Then you get the middle portion. And I think the middle portion in years past was like very solid, like 8-win teams, 7-win teams. This year might not be that way. I think you're going to have a lot of teams eating each other up. A lot of the teams are kind of average this year. And then you have really bad teams. You have like the bottom half, like the Oklahoma States, the Kansas States, the West Virginias that are really going to take up like, wow, they're really bad. So I like how the Big 12 is kind of shaped out, and I like how the schedule is shaped out for UCF. Now, I do want to put a caveat, and I said this on the post-game show, and I'm going to say it here. In the Big 12, as we know, nothing is linear here. Like, just because West Virginia looked really bad and lost to Ohio doesn't mean that they can't come in on October 18th and beat UCF. Like, there is a chance that happens. There's a good chance that happens. None of these games are given just because of how a team looks. You could say, and I'm sure people that are playing UCF are saying this, week 1 when we played Jack State, I'm sure teams were licking their lips and getting ready to eat because they're like, oh, UCF stinks. They beat Jack State 17-10, a game they should have lost. So that's where you kind of have to take this the rose-colored glasses off and look at the teams just as how they played. Kansas State has played 3 games. You're able to just get a gist of just how good they are. I think that game's a toss-up for me. I chose UCF to win it right now. I can't change my mind. That's a tough place to play. To go beat Kansas State on the road is going to be tough. Like, they are talented. There's a reason they were ranked in the top 25 to start the year. They have talent. They just don't look like a Chris Kleinman team right now. And that's kind of where you are looking at it like, what is actually going on with them? They can figure it out. And I think when you look at some of those teams and you look at some of those games, like, yeah, right now, it looks like UCF's in a good spot. But we haven't really seen UCF. We have, but we haven't. And that's why I think you have to go into these next 2 weeks. These next 2 weeks against UNC and Kansas State are really going to tell you a lot about this team. Because UNC and Kansas, again, if you are a talented Power 4 football team, an average Power 4 football team, you should be able to beat those teams. UNC is nothing special. They haven't put anything on film. Again, we'll see against Richmond if they look a little bit better. UNC is beatable, and you're at home. Kansas State has not looked good. You should be able to beat them. Now, it's on the road, so it's a little less likely. But those are two teams that you're kind of getting where you have a good chance to beat them with your current roster. If you go in and you really stink, then guess what? In the weeks coming up, you're going to rethink those games. Regardless of how bad West Virginia is, regardless of how bad Oklahoma State is, if you really stink against two kind of bottom-tier Power 4 programs, that's when you can start to rethink it. But right now, with how UCF did from week 1 to week 2, get the bye week at the perfect spot, you can kind of assume that UCF is going to figure it out. In some of these games that they should win, they might be able to pull out. I do want to caution. I said 7-5. 7-5 for UCF. That'd be a bowl game. 7 wins in Scott Frost's first year. That would be huge. That would mean, though, UCF has to get 5 more wins on their schedule. They need to win 5 out of the next 10 games to go to a bowl game. Or no, technically it's not true. They need to win 4 games out of the next 10 to go to a bowl game. 5 games would get them to 7 wins. You need to pick, I want to hear down in the comments below, pick 4 games that you are almost positive UCF will win. Almost positive. For me right now, positive win for me would be Oklahoma State. I feel very confident in that. Positive win for me would probably be West Virginia. I feel very confident about that. Next one would probably be Houston. But that's 3. Those are 3 that I feel positive and confident in that UCF should have those games on lock. What's the similarity with all of them? They're all at home, and they're all against opponents that UCF should be better than. The rest of them are kind of not toss-ups, like I may feel confident, but that's where you kind of have to go through it. That would get UCF to 5 wins. You need to find 1 more win. And is UCF good enough to get to 6 wins? That is something we're going to be asking ourselves over the next couple weeks and seeing how UCF plays against some of these Power 4 opponents. You're not getting Jack State anymore. You're not getting North Carolina A&T. You're getting Power 4 football. And UCF is going to walk into that next week when they take on the Tar Heels at home. So what do you guys think? Drop it down in the comments section below. Let me know. What are the 4 games that you believe UCF gets them to 6 wins? The 4 games you are almost certain it's a lock. Are you kind of agreeing with me on the 3 I said? I think it's probably going to be that case. But you need to tell me 1 more. What is the next one that you are so confident UCF is going to win? And do you think 7 wins is crazy? I think 7 wins is doable. Get to 6. Just get to 6. Get me to a bowl game. Give me some extra football. That's what I want to see. But I think if this team continues to develop the way I think they're going to, I do think this might be a 6-win, 7-win football team if they can get there. And that's exciting. That is exciting. All right, everybody, drop me down in the comment section below. Like I said, let me know your thoughts. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Again, thoughts and prayers up to Sean Clark and his family. We hope they are doing well. We hope he is doing well. And we hope that he gets back on his feet sooner rather than later. Guys, next week's schedule goes back to normal. Game is on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. So the schedule does shift just a hair. We're still going to be dropping the pod Thursday, probably Thursday early morning. We'll be doing our pregame show. It's going to be a little bit earlier, probably around 1 o'clock, 12:30. So be on the lookout for that. And our postgame show, per usual, will be on the field after the game. And a hopeful UCF win. But the pregame podcast will be dropping next Thursday. All right, everybody. This has been Charge On, presented by FanDuel. We will see you next week.